today I want to go over a trade recap that we took live in the Nexus AI Trades Discord. Right now I have pulled up the S&P futures, the ES. I would like to break down where longs were entered and how we identify trades like this for the future. Now for this example, I am using the S&P futures. It can be replicated on the ticker of your choice, but for me, this is my preference and this is what I traded today. So let's start off with how the day began. Looking at a micro time frame, market opened and immediately we rallied, and then followed by selling pressure throughout the day until power hour at the end of the day where we saw a rally. So there are a couple great examples of where trades were discovered. However, I would like to go over one in particular. So as always, I like to start on a bigger time frame, the weekly. For futures, I mean, weekly doesn't do a whole lot for me, right? Because contracts change quarterly. So I'll go to daily here. So what I'm looking for is supply and demand imbalances. If you don't know, a supply and demand imbalance represents where buyers or sellers were last active before a big move. In a balanced market, price essentially just chops around, right? Buyers and sellers agree on price, and in an imbalance, one side outweighs the other. In a demand imbalance, buyers outweigh sellers, and vice versa with a supply imbalance. So what we'd be looking for here in a daily time frame is where did a reversal happen, right? So here, I make my demand green to here. And I'll break this down. For demand, I go top of body to bottom of wick. For a supply zone, let's just call this a supply zone, right? It's not, but I have top of wick to the bottom of the body of the reversal candle. I'm going to delete those because that's not the focus right now. So today, if we saw strong selling pressure, I would have set alert here and waited for a daily demand reaction. However, that didn't happen. So I did clear my charts before this video. Before the day begun, we're trading up here. Not much to see in terms of a demand reaction, right? This 4-hour candle represents a lot. So we want to really refine what we're looking for. So here is what I'm looking for, right? I would normally look at this, but here's what happened. We came back and already revisited this. So this is a use demand zone, right? So I'm not going to pay attention to that. I want the most recent reversal. So let me zoom in a little bit. This candle right here, this is where a reversal took place, and this was sometime in after hours or pre-market. So I'll go top of body, make it green, to the bottom of the wick. And really in a demand reaction, I'm only looking at how price reacts at the beginning of a demand structure. So as I work my way down, execution takes place on a shorter time frame, and the planning takes place on a bigger time frame. Weekly, daily, 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour. So for this example, as you saw, I was on a 2-hour chart. So here's what took place today. We sold off. I actually took longs right about here. I had this alert set. On TradingView, you just right click, add alert, and you'll get notified on your phone or laptop. So I got in here and immediately we saw about a 10-point rally. Now I was excited as I saw buyers stepped in where I was anticipating it to. Ultimately, we dropped and we defended this kind of 670, 80 area on ES. Ultimately, we had a quick liquidity grab right below it, and then we bid up right on power hour. Now, let me walk you through why this trade had multiple signs of confirmation. I had a trend line pulled up here. I often do this, where we saw, well, first off, we had a higher high, lower low. Well, first off, we had a high and a low. Then we had a lower high, a lower low. This was a little bit lower, so a lower high and another lower low. So we have a trend going on to the downside. Until we break that trend, we're bearish. I did have this trend line here earlier today. So what I was looking for ultimately was a move down to demand structure for buyers to step in and a break over this descending resisting trend line. So we got, that's one. Second one would obviously be, this really should be first, but the demand reaction. And the third would be this increase in volume. If I go to a 1-minute chart, this is what I was looking for in real time. And we saw this. I captured it live in our Discord right when power hour started at about 304, we saw this big spike in volume on the 1-minute chart. That not only bid us out of demand over the trend line, and we use volume as a confirmation. Another thing you can use is order flow. They go hand in hand. So with that said, we took SPY calls expiring tomorrow out of demand, and my favorite target of all time is intraday VWAP right here. Now, I did trim half, and where I like to, if you like to play it safe, for example, if you are playing near-term expiration like I was, I look for the most recent low. So we got about here, and I was out, right? Just for the sake of the day almost ending, I did not want to swing this position, and VWAP's already pretty close. So there you go. That's a good target. That's a good structure. This is how you identify trades, and this is what we executed today. If you want to find more trade ideas and trade with some like-minded people, join the Nexus AI Trades Discord. We've been around since 2019, and we support all types of traders. Scalpers, swing traders, long-term position holders. We do it all. Thank you for watching.